Well, good morning. It is day 21 on the Palmetto Trail. I am doing the high hills of the Santee Passage today. I'm leaving Poinsett State Park. We stayed here. It was amazing. Such a peaceful, lovely park. The most reasonable one I've been to at $31 a night for electricity and water. That's what prices should be, rather than 50, 60 bucks as in other state parks. So, me happy camper. And here's my sign. I mean, just look at this place, and there's like nobody here. It's just gorgeous. The ranger says that this lake is swimmable, but not till the end of May, and I don't know why that is, but there are alligators around here too, so you take your life in your hands if you want to swim here. And lots of little rascals of squirrels. Just so pretty. Wow, is that man-made? That must be. I just realized that there's no more sound of the cicadas. They are gone, that deafening sound. Now we can have a peaceful hike. But there are other bugs that have come out that keep buzzing around my head. So hopefully I can deal with them. Is this a camping shelter or just a shelter? Anyway, I'll make use of it and have a rest, because I wandered off trail and I always hike extra than the passage suggests. Ruth and Naomi just got back to Naomi's homeland, which is Bethlehem in Judah. A relative of Naomi's husband, whose name is Boaz, was apparently very wealthy, and he had fields of grain. So since he was kind of related, Ruth asked Naomi if she should attempt to go and glean in these fields, since he was a shirt-tail relative. Naomi thought that was a great idea and said, "Go, my daughter." Back then, poor people were allowed to gather grain behind the harvesters. Ruth didn't know what fields were his, but God guided her to the correct field, because he came out and asked his servant who that young woman was. I wonder why they have these gates here like this. Do they not want horses to come or something? The servant told him it was the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi. She's been working all this time except for a little rest in the house. Boaz went to her and called her my daughter and said to her, "You will not glean from another field, but stay close to my young women. Where they reap, then you will follow after. I have also told my young men not to touch you, and when you are thirsty, go and drink from what the young men have drawn." Back then, young men did the reaping, and the young women did the binding of the sheaves. Well, Ruth fell on her face and bowed down to the ground and said, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, for I am a foreigner?" This was a sign of deep respect in biblical culture. And alongside with widows and orphans, foreigners were powerless in this society and would thus become easy targets for oppression and injustice. Being both a foreigner and a widow, Ruth was particularly vulnerable. Boaz answered, "It has been reported to me all that you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband's death, and how you left your family and the land of your birth and come to a people that you do not know. The Lord will repay your work, and a full reward will be given to you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge." See, he was being a witness, directing her to find God for comfort and protection. He was a very wise man. Ruth thanked him for his kindness, acknowledging that she was not like his other maidservants. When it was mealtime, Boaz invited her to eat with them and their bread, and to dip it in vinegar, which is probably a mixture of oil and vinegar. She was very grateful, and Boaz also gave her some roasted grain to eat. She kept some of it to take back to Naomi. I've not seen that one before. Well, it looks like I'm doing the low knot trail now. So many zigzagging trails. Then Boaz told his reapers to even let Ruth glean among the sheaves, and to even let grain fall purposely to make it easier for her to glean. Wow, an even bigger clump of these mountain laurels. But they are getting to be their last legs. So she gleaned in the field until evening, and then beat out what she had gleaned, which came to an ephah, or 22 liters. Anyway, an unusually large amount for one day of gleaning. Then she took it into the city to her mother-in-law. Naomi asked her how her day went and whose field she gleaned in. Ruth said, "His name is Boaz." Then Naomi praised God for Boaz's kindness and told Ruth, "This is one of our relations. He is a close relative." Oh boy, sandy road, man. And now I've got some exposed hiking, which I'm not too happy about. I did not wear a hat today. Oh, a little bit of shade, so that's nice. Ruth also told Naomi that he said she could come for all of the harvest season, both barley and wheat. Very grateful to be walking in the woods again. The meaning of a close relative back then was known as a kinsman redeemer, who had a very special obligation to the family. Boaz obviously realized his role. This is a special story, but what really jumped out at me is that Ruth is a widow, a foreigner, and poor. She was given charity, but she had to work for it. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, I've had lots of people stick out their hand for money from me. I usually prefer buying them a meal, but I have given out cash as well. Maybe it's the nurse in me, because I have heard all kinds of stories from people who are drug seeking. And so I've become very extra wary of people. I asked a police officer in a large city ER I was working what his thoughts were, because it seemed like this city had panhandlers on every corner. I asked him if these were legitimate cases and why wasn't there help for all these people. He responded with, "They are professional beggars. They make $300 a day, so don't give them any money." Since then, I have preferred to give money to charities to help the people rather than actually helping the people themselves. I mean, I have still handed out money or a meal, but I have said no to some people. I had a lady drive up in a nice van and ask me for money. She didn't even get out of the vehicle. And right beside me there was a store, and in the window there was a sign that said, "Help wanted." People would rather beg than work, I guess. So I've become pretty skeptical of them. In Bible times, God appointed the gleanings for the poor and the destitute. Provision was made for supplying the needy with the necessities of life, and for teaching those more favorably situated the lessons of compassion and unselfishness. But the needy had to work for what they received, and did not just become the passive recipients of charity. This preserved their self-respect and encouraged initiative and industry. So that's my feeling too. If they can work, then they should work. Anyway, it's a tough situation. I do know that there are mentally ill that are homeless, and that's tough. What are your thoughts about the homeless and the beggars? I'd love to hear what you do for them. Beautiful big trees. I wonder if this used to be a homestead, or if it's just a natural little meadow. I'm cutting this high hills of Santee Passage short today. I've done 6 miles. I've pinned my mom to come pick me up, and I have got so much to do in town and lots of videos that need uploading, so I'm going to head to a library. Anyway, this passage was another one of those let's wind them in and out and see, let's wear them out unnecessarily. I could have shaved off 2 miles at least just by cutting across. I don't understand their reasoning for the pathways that they make, but anyways, it's done. And I'm melting, and I'm glad it's over for today.